A blast of Arctic air is on the way as we get into this weekend and really into early next week, along with some people seeing their first snow of the season. Here to provide all the detailed information that we have on this weather change. The first thing we'll speak on is what we're the most confident in, which is the coldest air of the season from portions of the central to pretty much all of the eastern U.S. The second thing we'll talk about is what we're a little bit less confident in, which is the snow part of this. After that, we'll go over today's weather across the entire lower 48, and then we'll wrap the video up with a Bible devotion if you want to join us for that. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So we'll start off by looking at this. This is a ridge out west. This is a trough in the eastern U.S. Now, this trough of low pressure, which is showing up in that big blue blob that we talk about, which a lot of people immediately think, snow. I think that's, if there's one word you pick that they take out of this big blob of blue, is snow. And listen, in the winter, it normally does bring snow for someone. Now, I think a lot of people probably immediately think big snowstorm, or because blue goes all the way down to Florida and Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, we're going to get snow down here. That's not what it means. What I want you to take from this is that we're going to have some energy in the atmosphere. The blue is low pressure. And whatever that energy is, whether that's a significant storm system or just a little bit of rain, a little bit of snow, whatever it is, regardless, behind that energy, you normally have a shot of cold air. Now, how cold is that air going to be? We're here to try to figure that out, right? Now, normally when you have a trough like this in the eastern half of the lower 48, you normally have a spiking ridge in the western half of the lower 48. So you're probably going to have a period of above average temperatures in the west if you are tuning in from that area. So let's go on and move past this. So I want you to take snow out your head when you see blue over your state. So if you're tuning in from Alabama, you immediately think, man, it's going to snow in Alabama because we got blue over us. That's not what it means. And just, reading on social media and stuff like that, you can tell that's what everybody's thought process goes to. So I want you to take that out your thoughts. I know I'm pulling for snow too, guys. Not everybody is, but I am. Now, let's talk about what we're the most confident in first, which is temperatures. So well below average temperatures is going to follow whatever storm system we get, which we'll talk about here in a second. So these are temperatures compared to average. I wouldn't focus too much. I'll speak on it as we go on how below average these temperatures are going to be. But let's start off with, this is around Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening of this coming weekend, so November the 8th. So the lower portion of the lower 48, the southern tier of the country, is dealing with at least slightly above average temperatures. And as we're getting into Sunday morning, still dealing with it, and then bang, here comes Sunday. This is the afternoon hours, the 9th. You see this green area? This is anywhere from 12 to 15 degrees below average. So if your average high temperature for November 9th in Des Moines, Iowa is, I don't know what it is. I'll be honest. I don't pretend to know everybody's average low and high temperatures for, any area in the country. But say if it's like 58, 60 degrees in Des Moines, then you might have only highs in, maybe the low 40s, maybe even upper 30s, okay? Just depends on what your average is, and you got to kind of know that to understand this map. But I'll show you actual air temperatures here in a second. But as we start to move into next Monday, so the 10th of November, not only are you getting widespread green, but you're starting to get these colors right here in the whitish purple, even some like some of those Barney colors here in western North Carolina. If you look down here, these are temperatures that are anywhere from 10 to as much as 25 degrees below average. So it's not like we're in September anymore. This is really cold conditions. We're getting now into the middle portion of November. So a big blob of really cold air, Arctic air. This is coming from, the northern portions of Canada, getting dumped down from that area, from the Arctic. Is really unleashing across the central and really the eastern U.S. And then, we get into next Tuesday, a week from today. This lingers around for the eastern U.S., but it doesn't look to last super long. We hang on to below average temperatures all the way into late next work week, but it does look like we have a flooding of some Pacific air that really brings temperatures well above average for the central U.S. By the time we get into the middle portion of the month, maybe, the 13th, 14th, 15th. But as far as how cold these temperatures can potentially be, now this is just one run of the Euro. I wouldn't view this as an exact forecast, but it's going to show you the idea of how cold this could really get. These are high temperatures this coming Saturday. We'll talk about the central U.S. first, then we'll go to the eastern U.S. So very chilly already for the northern tier of the country, Dakotas, Minnesota. But I mean, we're into the 80s in Texas. So it's pretty tight temperature gradient. It's going to be a pretty sharp cold front. And then we move into Sunday for highs. And I mean, highs locked into sub-freezing conditions, below 32 degrees for high temperatures up here in the Dakotas, areas of Minnesota. Your first legit shot of cold air. Nothing extremely record-breaking or rare or anything, but it's going to be the first taste, real taste of winter up here. And then we go into Monday morning. These are potential low temperatures. Nothing outrageous or anything, guys, but we got upper teens. We got deep down the low 20s all the way down into Arkansas, Oklahoma, and places like that. And these are potential highs. I mean, not getting out the 40s for areas of the western deep south, down the southern areas of the Mississippi Delta, the valley region, stuff like that, the upper Midwest. I mean, very cold temperatures. And then we have a moderation of the temperatures, and then we lose the air mass. Now, it looks very quick. And one thing I'm pretty confident in is, coldest air of the season. But the next thing I'm confident in is this is not going to last super long, but it's going to be a potent shot of Arctic air. And if we're looking for the eastern U.S., which I know a lot more of my viewers are tuning in from, and we go into Sunday morning, nothing too crazy. In fact, well above average temperatures to the southeast ahead of this cold front for Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and surrounding states. It should be a nice warm day, honestly, Sunday for these areas. And then we certainly get into Monday morning. The tune changes here. Look at these sub-freezing lows for next Monday morning. But look at these highs. I mean, these aren't exact highs. This is actually 1 p.m., so a couple more hours of heating. So I would bump some of these temperatures up as far as next Monday's highs, a few degrees. But I mean, I definitely can see areas of even Alabama, Mississippi, northern Georgia, heck, the Carolinas, potentially not getting out the 40s for high temperatures. That's below average for highs, even for January for these areas as we're getting into next Monday. I mean, 30s for highs a little bit further north. And then look, Tuesday morning lows. I mean, first widespread hard freeze likely. And I mean, even chilly temperatures all the way down into Florida. Nothing crazy, guys, but this is going to be a shot of really cold air. And I mean, this is chilly across the southeast. And then the air mass begins to moderate. And of course, the Climate Prediction Center graphics have tweaked now because of obviously what we're all seeing here. So from the 9th to the 13th, the blue areas in the eastern U.S. is where they're leaning towards below average temperatures. Now, if you're wondering, well, we're going to get cold in the middle of the country too, just remember this is from the 9th through the 13th, okay? So this air mass in these areas more so dominates, the 7th, 8th, and 9th, it looks like, really the 8th into the 9th. But the eastern U.S. has had a dramatic flip. If you look at this, say, a few days ago, most of the country was going towards above average temperatures. And listen, I do think we're going to have a mid-month warm-up for almost the entirety of the country. And by the time we get into the 11th through the 17th, 8 to 14-day temperature outlook, middle of the country starting to warm up, still hanging on to near normal to slightly below average temperatures for the eastern U.S. Now, the thing that probably a lot of people want to hear about, especially if you live in really anywhere, because I know everybody's hanging on for hope, even for the South, but just remember, it's early November. 95% of the time, you're not going to get snow. But for the central U.S. first, this is what you're looking at. This is starting Friday, a little bit of energy. Cold air is not settled in yet, so this is all rain mainly for the entirety of the Great Lakes region. And then the cold air begins to dump down, and we could have some energy associated with this trough, this dip in the jet dropping down. So we're getting some of our first snows in North Dakota of the season, and we could get some snow into Minnesota, South Dakota, and this little low is coming down, diving down. Cold air is not in place in places like Milwaukee, Chicago yet. So this is mainly just a chilly rain, but we got a little bit of blue showing up, which is snow. Green is rain. And look, it even starts to show a kind of a band of snow in lower Michigan as the cold air catches up with this moisture. And this low pressure kind of rounds up that trough. So this is Sunday morning showing some snow in lower Michigan. And I mean, that's about it, guys. There's not really much energy associated with this. Now, if we look at the GFS, does it show anything different for the central U.S.? I mean, not really. As we're getting into Friday, we see some flakes, maybe some festive flakes up in the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin. But it's different in a sense that the cold air's diving down a little bit quicker, a little bit more aggressive over the central U.S. Therefore, this energy is certainly a little bit further south. Cold air suppresses it, catches up with that moisture a little bit further south. So we got this is a decent difference off the Euro. For example, this is for, Saturday evening. We backed this up to Saturday evening, and that's what that's showing. The system is a little bit further east, and it's certainly warmer. We look at the GFS, it's totally different. Banding of heavy snow south of Minneapolis and right on the fringe of Des Moines. And this continues and actually brings a period of accumulating snow into northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, even into Chicago, Milwaukee, and even into areas of northern Indiana. So it's definitely a different evolution. There's not much after that, some lake effect snow. And let's look at the eastern U.S. What does it show? First off, I do want to say we got a quick moving system that's going to pack a lot of moisture with it for the northeast. And this is going to bring a chilly rain for most, but for the higher elevations of New England, the Adirondacks, even the Tug Hill Plateau, and northern Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine's going to get some heavy, wet snow. And I think we'll get some solid accumulation from this also. And then this moves out, and here comes our first kind of prefrontal system. No cold air really in place, so this is all rain kind of moving into Friday, really into Saturday for the eastern U.S., but no cold air in place. And then the cold air moves in along with a weak storm system. It could be strong, but it looks to start off weak. We got some moisture, so this weekend looking like some rain for the southeast, eastern U.S. This is some moisture surging out ahead of this trough. But look at this band of snow in lower Michigan, and a quick hitting snowstorm maybe up here for southern Ontario, Quebec. Some lake effect snow with cold air crashing down over the Great Lakes and the favorite areas, the UP, just east of Lake Michigan, etc. And what's interesting to me, as we're getting into Sunday night into Monday, into the 10th, you got a little bit of energy diving down with this trough. And listen, I wouldn't say never with this, but as we're getting into the morning of the 10th, 6 days from now, show some light snow, some flurries breaking out as far south as northern Alabama, northern Georgia. Don't hold me to this. This is just one run of the Euro. Down to the Cumberland Plateau, some northwest flow kicking up in the Smokies, down the Roan Mountain area, basically just into the higher elevations of Tennessee, North Carolina, a little bit in West Virginia. And it's just something to watch. I don't think this is completely unreasonable, especially if energy really dives down more aggressive like what the Euro is showing. And then we're just going to get probably a period, whether it's 24 hours, 36, less, of some aggressive lake effect snow as the core of this cold air flies over the bodies of water of the Great Lakes, gets that convective element going, and we're going to kickstart some lake effect snow for a period. And after that, it's pretty much done. GFS, does it kind of show that snow for the Mid-South? Well, there's that system that's locking in already, kind of a potent northern stream piece of energy. And then here comes that prefrontal system, all rain. And then we get into next Sunday, and this Sunday, there's that heavy area of snow kind of screeching over northern areas of, Illinois, Indiana, lower Michigan. I mean, that's some heavy snow, and cold air is able to catch up with a deepening low pressure for the northeast, and you actually got some more snow falling in the interior areas of New England, a little bit of snow, even for Buffalo, Rochester, down here, and even Columbus. Not a forecast. And then some energy is able to crash down, create some northwest flow snow all the way down into the Smokies, the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, even eastern Kentucky, definitely West Virginia, the Allegheny Mountains here, PA, western Maryland, and then a little bit of lake effect snow, and then that's about it. It's a quick moving, look to me. Now, the signal off for snow for the Euro ensemble, let's start off for the Dakotas. Anybody west of this area not seeing much. So we'll start off here, and this is between now and the next 8 days, which is all the graphics I'm going to show you 8 days out. So, North Dakota, a couple inch snowfall, mean average, not a forecast. The entire state of Minnesota has a little bit of about a half inch to an inch snowfall mean. I mean, almost everybody does. Now, what about, say, the GFS? What does it show? It's always going to follow its operational run. So, of course, it picks up on what the GFS run is showing. So it shows a stronger average down here. But it's definitely... The GFS ensemble, to me, I'm going to say it, is kind of garbage. But, I'm not a big fan of the GFS or GFS ensemble. But As far as the Euro ensemble for the upper Midwest, it really picks up on these lake effect snow belt areas, off Lake Superior. It picks it up off Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, and a little bit of snow outside these areas. It kind of shows the possibility of some north to south oriented snow bands, lake effect snow bands in the northern Indiana, which is possible depending on the flow of this cold air, and shows a little bit of an average down here into Indiana, deeper into Illinois. We just got to watch this. How much does this tweak until we can get this really and truly into a forecast range? So we look at it for the Northeast. Of course, this is combined with a system about to move through here in the next 48 hours. So some of this is beefed up because of that. But you can see the lake effect snow areas, Erie, Akron, you can see it near Buffalo, south of Buffalo, the Finger Lakes area. You can see it in the Tug Hill Plateau, the Adirondacks, a little bit of a mean around the I-95 corridor, but I wouldn't expect much. And then you can see it down here, the higher elevations of West Virginia and southwest PA, western Maryland. There's a few inch snowfall average down here also. And then there is a little bit of a signal showing up, even over a 2-inch snowfall mean in the Smokies, with a little bit of a signal for the Cumberland Plateau for a little bit of snow down here. Something we just need to watch. And if you do look at the GFS ensemble for this, it's about the same. Not much changes. So we're going to continue to watch. It's interesting. You guys know I love snow, so I'm happy to start talking about this now. But as far as today's weather, got some energy shooting across the northwest portions of the country, a little bit of energy leaving the northeast portion of the country. The entire middle and southern tier of the country is quiet. Moving past this, watches, warnings, and advisories. A lot of wind alerts out west. Winter weather advisories for the Rockies of Idaho and northern and northwestern areas of Montana. Some red flag warnings. Dry, windy across the middle of the country here in Nebraska, areas of South Dakota. Some wind advisories for windy conditions up here in New England. Some dense fog in eastern Tennessee and surrounding states. So as far as the risk of thunderstorms, maybe a thunderstorm here in northern areas of California, southwest Oregon. Excessive rainfall, I wouldn't worry too much about that either. So, all in all, guys, I'm going to end up blasting through this part of the weather video because there's nothing to talk about. The southeast, beautiful weather expected, nothing to speak on. Northeast, a little bit of wraparound flow could bring some light, cold rain showers, maybe even some snowflakes into Maine. Could get a burst of snow, depending on where you live here in areas of Maine, northern New Hampshire. But as far as any significant weather, our next storm system that we kind of talked about just a second ago is about to move in. This will encounter some leftover cold air. And in fact, if we look at the entirety of the HRRR model, you can see some heavy moisture ramming into some leftover cold air. So this will be an interesting day of weather, really getting into tomorrow night. But the south central U.S., it's quiet, dry, and just continues to be kind of a warmer start to fall down here. North central U.S., some energy will fly in through North Dakota. This is too warm to be any kind of snow. Same thing for northern Minnesota and the UP of Michigan. This will be just rain as cold air is not really settled in, but just a quick moving area of northern stream energy, Clipper. And in the western U.S., we'll have a big storm system starting to move into the western U.S. And really tonight, conditions will go downhill for the west coast and western areas of Washington, Oregon, and northern California. And it'll be very heavy. It's just a warm storm system, so you're not getting a lot of higher elevation snow. You got to get way up there in the Cascades and stuff like that, the Sierra Nevada, to get any snow out of this. So we continue to be void of any real deep cold air out west. Temperatures today, chilly day across the northeast, southeast, kind of an average temperature day, nothing too crazy. South central U.S., a little bit warmer than average, certainly warmer than average across the northern terrain of the country, except maybe South Dakota. But western U.S., a little bit of this, a little bit of that, nothing too crazy one way or the other. So let's create a timestamp. Let's go back to, let's just make this our timestamp. So, and let's do a little Bible devotion this morning. Nice 2-day roll with this. This morning we are in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 18. It says, "But grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. To him be the glory both now and to the day of eternity." So I wrote, "Become spiritually more mature with your walk and relationship with God. When doing this, you're able to apply God's strength and live a life that pleases him. Growing in knowledge is really growing a deeper relationship with God." The end of this line really hits on God be the glory. And that's what it says. It says, to him be the glory, both now and to the day of eternity. Which means when you are growing in grace, knowledge, and faith, the purpose for doing so isn't for your glory, it's for God. It's for glorifying God. We are glorifying God when we are growing in our relationship with God. So, some examples of that is the many things we've talked about already before, when you're living in obedience to God, you're living out, we're not going to live out the perfected characteristics of Christ, right? But if we're striving for it, then it allows us to grow. When we're getting to Scripture, when we have quiet time, when we go to church, when we fellowship with, other believers, when we're just basically growing spiritually, and opens up the opportunity for us to really be used. And if we allow that opportunity to work in and we do what the will of God and be used, then God's going to get the glory from it, and someone's going to get blessed from it. And that's a way to glorify God. There's many other examples too. Just living out, like I've said this many times before. We're going to wrap it up with this. I've said this many times before. If someone knows you, say at work, say at school, whatever it may be, if someone, even at church, if someone knows you as a believer of God, a Christian, right? And they're not a believer, right? They're not saved. They don't know Christ. They're lost. And maybe their interest is perked a little bit and they start to watch you. They watch the way you walk. Do you live that life that you say you're all about? If you are, then they might use you as an example to maybe get closer to God. I hope that makes sense. So, I kind of like to walk like someone's watching me. So I hope that makes sense. You never know how God's going to use you. It might seem little. It might be huge and almost overwhelming, and he's calling you to get out your comfort zone. But I know that sometimes we get away from what we just read in Scripture. But, just basically continue to grow spiritually mature, guys. So that's all I got. And I'm speaking to myself, as always. I mean, that is a daily challenge for me, but it's a good challenge. It's a good fight. And it's one that we have to keep pursuing. That's all I got. Y'all have a wonderful day. God bless all y'all. And we'll talk again tomorrow morning.